Part 65. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 644. In the brightly lit golden living room. Garen was lying on his back on the sofa, his arms resting on the top of the sofa on both sides, his head just tilted back, his eyes slightly closed. The potential points of the cultural relics have been absorbed. He glanced at the situation in his attribute column. Galen Thomas. Strength 2.9. Agile 2.9. Physique 3.1. Intelligence 2.8. Potential 25,648%. Soul limit 30. He only slightly increased his average attributes, and then used the increase in physical attributes to recover from several serious injuries. But just such a slowdown left Hessas puzzled and could only guess that it was due to his own super powerful secret method. After all, throughout the ages, there have been countless miraculous feats and techniques, and those created by one's own may not be inferior to those in ancient times. Garen closed his eyes. My biggest problem now is the problem of movement in the dream. I no longer need the help of Hessas. I can move at will. But I need to concentrate. So the biggest problem now is how to use the potential points. There are 256 potential points, how to distribute them. He didn't expect that he would gain so much from this trip. More than 200 potential points were accumulated by the Men in Black organization over the years. Unlike him, they did not have attributes and abilities to filter, and they did not dare to absorb potential points to enhance themselves. Only slowly absorbed when needed, but even so, all kinds of sequelae made them miserable, and most of them died early. Only Lieber's physique was special and different from ordinary people, so he was least affected. Garen has determined that indeed all abilities and knowledge related to dreams cannot be enhanced by potential value, and can only be advanced through step-by-step practice. This makes it impossible to quickly overcome the dream technique. There are only a few choices. 1. Improve your physical fitness on average and enhance your strength in reality. This can effectively increase one's own strength in dreams. After all, the body used in dreams is still one's own body. 2. Enhance your own skills and secret martial arts. Killing Hand may be forcibly advanced, or you may choose other skills to advance. My Wu can be used against void creatures later on, but you need to pay attention to the hidden dangers of Hessas. 3. Focus on increasing a certain attribute. After reaching a certain level, special abilities and talents will appear in the attribute, just like the double strike skills that appeared after the intelligence reached a very high level. The Killing Hand is powerful for Garen, but has many hidden dangers. Garen's mind was running with thoughts, and his thoughts suddenly stopped on a secret technique that suddenly flashed across his mind. The 7-star secret acupuncture points, he obtained by summarizing what he had learned, 7 progressive secret acupoints for stimulating potential, plus 2 hidden acupoints. Recently, he has been constantly revising and improving the contents, gradually turning it into a complete set of secret techniques for practicing secret martial arts. The effect of each level is equivalent to clicking on 1 star. With such a secret method, the stronger his average quality, the stronger he will become. After reaching a certain level, it may reach an incredible level. Garen made a decision in his mind. His eyes suddenly focused on the strength attribute column. Stay for 3 seconds, and after a pause, the potential point value will decrease rapidly. The strength attribute quickly increased from 2.9, and the potential value increased by 0.1. 2.9, 3.1, 3.2, 3.34.15.0. The data was stuck at the 5-point integer and stopped rising. The other attributes were too low to continue to increase. Garen understood that this was due to the mutual interaction between various parts of the body. The recovery of 5 points of power gave him a vague feeling of being full of power in the totem world of his previous life. Although it was still not as good as the white doll and the explosive power of hiding life in his own arms, his normal hands-on strength had reached a terrifying level. This is not just a simple enhancement to 5 times that of ordinary people, but an increase in the overall body's strength to a powerful level. Once it breaks out, it is at least dozens of times the force of an average person. This is determined by his secret martial arts realm. His realm determines that he can mobilize almost all the power of his body and all the power of every muscle. Even an ordinary person can become extremely powerful if he can unleash the strength of all the muscles in his body and twist them into one. But normal people can only concentrate the strength of their limbs. A slightly stronger person can add the strength of their waist and back, and a stronger person can coordinate their limbs. Only by taking one step further and being able to freely control every muscle fiber in the body can this level be the level where all the power of the body can be concentrated. This is also Garen's current state. He once tested the genetic limits of people in this world alone, using numerous secret methods to stimulate the potential of experimental subjects. In addition, the vitality of his arms protected the opponent from death, and he continued to enhance his physical fitness. He could only reach 3 points and was unsustainable. The whole body of the experimental subject will directly collapse, and even if it is alive, it will not be able to maintain its life. In other words, the strongest people in this world, ordinary humans, can only reach 3 times the average quality of the average adult standard. This is the genetic upper limit. Garen's own upper limit is increased by the soul seed, which is the result of his previous world. After raising his strength to 5 points and consuming 21 potential points, Garen's sight once again fell on agility. After the same 21 potential points were consumed, there were 19 points for physical fitness and 22 points for intelligence. A total of 83 potential points were consumed at once. It feels so familiar. Garen was sitting on the sofa, his muscles all over his body were trembling unconsciously and turning a faint red color. His body was expanding unconsciously, becoming stronger and more streamlined. The sunken spot where he sat on the sofa began to sink slightly, and his weight gain was immediately obvious. Wave after wave of power filled his whole body. Garen felt that his body was getting denser and denser, but the stronger and stronger power supplied the kennel's rare movements faster, making him feel lighter and lighter. He stretched out his fingers and flicked them. Laugh. A stream of white air flew out, which was the airflow ejected by the nails at high speed. The white smoke hit the wall covering opposite, as if it was hit with a hammer. Garen looked at the remaining potential points, and there were only a little over 100. If you add more, if the physical quality exceeds 5 points, it will take 20 potential points to improve one attribute. In other words, 2 potential points will be needed to improve by 0.1 value. This is a watershed, a threshold for qualitative change. The remaining 100 points are not enough to add a few points. He looked at the accurate data and found that there were still 173 potential points left. When he was bored, he once converted the power attribute points into familiar power units to facilitate a clear comparison of the strength levels of the attribute points. His most commonly used attribute is strength, so the converted data is also strength. The limit of human strength in this world is normally around 460 kilograms. This is the maximum limit that can be lifted at one time, and it is also the limit data calculated by Galen many times. There are many such experimental products in the mercenary world. Many black men with strong bodies can reach close to 300 kilograms of strength. With a little stimulation using secret methods, they can reach the limit of 46 kilograms. At most, they will lose strength and fall into a coma for a period of time, and they will be able to survive. Consumed, there won't be much damage. According to Galen's calculations, attributes are affected by the world environment. Every increase in strength attribute points in this world is equivalent to doubling the theoretical limit strength data, which is 460 kilograms. This is his first complete and accurate conversion data that actually represents the attributes. In other words, His current strength is 5 points, which is equivalent to 5 times 460 kilograms. The theoretical limit is 5 times 460 kilograms, which is equal to 2,300 kilograms, which is 2.3 tons of strength. He can lift 2.3 tons of weight at one time, which is his current theoretical strength limit. Only Garen can reach such a limit. His realm can mobilize all the power of the whole body and use this limit as a normal level of use. The rest of the people only have extremely strong bodies, and after the top secret method is activated, they consume his lifespan and potential can barely reach the level of his physical fitness. Of course, this is only calculating physical fitness, and the secret martial arts and other secrets are not counted. Therefore, even if other people have the same physical fitness as Garen, if they do not have the same martial arts realm as him, and without the activation of secret techniques, they will not be able to reach their limit. At most, they will reach 60% of this limit. This strength is just pure weightlifting strength. If it is punching strength, it also needs to add 5 galleons of agility. The calculation of the agility attribute is not calculated as 5 times the speed of the average person. There is such a limit data for the human body's limit speed. The agility attribute seems to increase the value on this basis. This galleons have not been carefully calculated, but adding a little agility seems to be able to reduce and optimize the body's weight and flexibility. He vaguely felt that the agility points should be mainly used to reduce the bloat and overly strong body caused by strength improvement. In fact, his current agility and strength are the same value. It feels like he has not increased his speed too quickly, but has only eliminated the speed decrease caused by strength. His speed is still about the same as it was before the attributes were increased, but if he were still at the same speed as before, he would still be able to produce at least 2 tons of power. He now weighs at least 100 kilograms, and looks about the same size as an ordinary person, but is surprisingly dense. His previous burst of punch speed was at least 20 meters per second. More than 2 tons of force are thrown out at a speed of 20 meters per second. Even dozens of tons of things cannot be carried. This kind of force and speed coordination has reached a terrifying momentum. Of course, the premise is that the skin and bones must withstand such impact. However, ordinary cranes may not necessarily be able to reach the galleon's level with such a force impact. Garen could vaguely feel whether his physical fitness was leaning towards strength or speed. It mainly depends on which of these two attributes is more prominent and how much more than the other. And if you don't have a strong physique to withstand a huge rebound impact caused by excessive strength and speed, you will not be able to bear it at the same time and collapse together when you hit the opponent. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 645. Intelligence is about attributes such as neural response, memory, understanding, and association, imagination, etc. If it is low, it will also lead to an incomplete mastery of one's own strength and insufficient body coordination. The originally smooth and flawless secret martial arts fighting may be impaired. Due to the sudden and drastic changes in the body, many flaws were created. Therefore, each of the 4 attributes seems to be independent, but in fact they all play a vital role. Galleon didn't understand it very well before, but now he has slowly figured it out. Considering all things considered, it is still necessary to increase the average attributes together. You cannot overstrengthen one item alone, as this will bring an invisible burden to the body, but it will not be as much as a balanced improvement in strength. In the end, there were still 173 potential points. Garen added an average of 2 points to the 4 attributes in turn. All attributes became 7 points, leaving only 13 potential points. All the potential was used up at once. He sat on the sofa and felt the state of his body. It seems that I need something that can actually test the limit of my power explosion. Garen felt that he needed an all-round quality test. The 7 attributes of strength and speed are theoretically equivalent to 7 times 460 kilograms, which is equal to 3.2 tons. The speed should remain unchanged, or maybe it has been slightly enhanced. Galleons cannot tell. In fact, in the past, unless agility exceeded strength, his speed would generally not exceed a certain limit. Now that he thought about it, he realized these subtleties. Agility brings more flexibility and less weight. 7 points of power impact, coupled with this speed, the burst of power should be hundreds of tons. The power produced by the combination of strength and speed is not simply superimposed. Garen raised his hands and looked at the translucent stratum corneum skin covering his body. This layer of skin seemed thin, but in fact it had extremely powerful defense capabilities. This was the change in physical fitness after the simultaneous improvement. This was his first detailed calculation and sorting out the meaning of attribute points. One attribute point represents the adult data limit of a standard unit. This will be of great help to him to understand his own strength more clearly. Some kind of weird change happened to your body, Hesaz's doubtful voice came out in his ears. Have you practiced any special secret techniques? I feel like there seems to be a strong mutation in your body. Have you noticed it too? This is a secret method of practice that I created myself, Garen replied casually. I have been practicing it since I was a child. It has the effect of strengthening my physical fitness. Hesaz heard that he didn't mean what he said and knew that everyone had their own secrets, so he didn't ask any questions. In fact, he could only roughly feel the changes in Galleon, but it was not clear, and he didn't know how much he had changed. Garen moved his fists and stood up from the sofa. The clothes on his body were bulging and felt like they might collapse at any time. After going back to the bedroom to find an elastic vest and shorts to put on, Galen walked to the swimming pool behind the villa, jumped in with a splash, and then gently stretched his body and swam. Swimming is the best way to test your coordination. Your body seems to have changed. Tisk tisk. Hesaz clearly felt the changes in Galen's body at this time. I feel like you're a humanoid transformer. He actually knows about transformers. Garen smiled and rushed out of the water. He shook the splash without saying anything. It was only 7 o'clock. He had reached the ultimate genetic level of 20 points in the totem world. That kind of power was simply a terrifying level. Ancient mythical beasts and creatures can be smashed to death by head-on collisions. Those powerful power totems were torn apart by his strength. It's only 7 points now, but it's a pity that there are no more potential points. If the state of the totem world can be completely restored, then there is no need to worry about void creatures and the like. If you don't want to say it, forget it. Hesaz changed the topic and said, you should be careful these days. I feel that the void creatures are about to launch a new attack. How are you practicing your technique? It's not bad. I can move freely in the dream, but it feels a bit heavy. It seems that it's not the physical strength consumed, but some kind of mental attention. Garen raised his head and swam slowly on the water, while answering Hesaz's inquiry in a low voice. That's natural. Dreams consume your subconscious attention, and you don't get much exercise in this area. You will get tired quickly. It has nothing to do with physical strength, but everything to do with your brain concentration. Hesaz explained, after you can move freely, you need to move to the next step. Your activities in the dream mainly rely on identifying a stronghold like a base and focusing all your concentration on that point. I noticed that the stronghold you determined is your hand, so now, carefully observe your dream. Don't stay in one place for too long. Instead, quickly glance at it and then return to your stronghold. This way, you will not be affected by inexplicable thoughts and lose your focus. Stronghold, Garen recounted the key points. Of course, didn't you notice? Anyone, please note, anyone, in a dream, will be easily led to unknown places by chaotic wandering thoughts. Sometimes you will have certain feelings inexplicably, and you will also suddenly run from one place to another. Your dreams are determined by your thoughts, and in dreams, your thoughts are often the most changeable. When you see something, you may make an association, and then the associated thing quickly becomes the reality in the dream. Hesaz explained. But, have you noticed? What? When we are in dreams, often when we think of something bad, fearful, or something we are afraid of, that thing or situation is likely to appear quickly, approach or even get close to you. Garen leaned on the edge of the pool and frowned slightly. Is this the so-called fear of whatever comes? Your description is very apt. That's right. In dreams, what we fear often comes. When we have a worry in a dream, the worry is likely to quickly amplify and then turn into a real dream. What do you want to say? Garen frowned. There is actually a reason for this, Hessas explained. Dreams are the reactions of our biological brains to the outside world and inner consciousness, which are mixed together at the same time, resulting in an uncertain environment. It will have certain reflections and expressions both externally and internally. For example, the temperature rises in your body after you sleep, which affects your body temperature in your dreams. You are likely to dream that you are in a hot environment such as a desert or a steam room. This is the influence of the outside world on the human body. Harmful effects often do not appear all at once. If they appear too violently all at once, you will be awakened directly. Of course, in addition to external influences, there is also the influence of one's own consciousness on dreams. Garen nodded slowly and thoughtfully. Hessas continued. Any subtle impact our dreams have on our body and consciousness will quickly change and appear, which results in the endless change and illogical nature of dreams. Because the impact and changes in these two aspects are too fast. And what are you afraid of? This is because there are things peeking into your dreams. Once they discover your weaknesses and loopholes, they will quickly have a specific impact and plunge you into panic and fear. Many of these things are invisible creatures. They are spiders that specialize in capturing consciousness. Then what does this have to do with the next skill you want to talk about? Garen asked. You must understand this principle, Hessas explained. Understanding this principle, anyone can achieve the state of perfect control over themselves through self-practice step by step. In this field, you are the same as ordinary people, or even worse than ordinary people. This kind of progress is still the weakest category even if we guy in duo. Continue. Garen didn't care about this blow. If his talent was not good enough, he could make up for it through hard work. In dreams, your body has any subtle influence on the outside world: sleeping posture, pillow comfort, weather temperature, hot or cold, or mosquito bites, physical diseases, or even the influence of cosmic rays penetrating your body, the influence of the Earth's magnetic field. Subtle changes in airflow will affect your dreams. Your senses will faithfully reflect it all. So you have to understand that our dreams are affected by both internal association and imagination, as well as external stimulation. Then the next step you have to do is to distinguish among these influences and in your dreams things that are harmful to you and do not belong to your dreams. Is this possible? Garen felt very complicated. There are so many intertwined influences that it is difficult to distinguish one thing from the other. Of course it's difficult, but this is a necessary ability for void stalkers. You must do it, otherwise you will be eaten up by void creatures in the future, Hessas explained calmly. If you can do it and practice it for a long time, then you will be able to slowly develop your body's instinct. Your body will naturally reject and block all influences that are harmful to your body, such as cosmic rays or magnetic fields. The body enters a new level of purity. Even normal people will experience a qualitative change in their lifespan and life level. There should be some way, Garen asked. You can try to start with memory. Anyone's self-dreams are created and transformed based on their own memory. Even subconscious memories will naturally produce a sense of familiarity when they are seen, but if it appears, you have never seen it before. People and things, then you need to be vigilant. What are you wary of? That could be an external influence, something harmful, such as a void creature. Of course, it could also be what we call an invisible creature. Invisible creature, Garen noticed that this was the second time Hessas heard this word. Regarding the interpretation of dreams, many things are actually my personal experience and are not false. This kind of exploration is an area that humans have not completely touched so far, and I am still exploring it myself. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 646. Yes, invisible creatures exist in any world. They do not live on the same time plane as us humans. Their long time and lifespan are close to infinite. This is very similar to void creatures. We once suspected that void creatures were overly powerful in a certain world. Invisible creatures. Closer to home, most invisible creatures cannot be seen by the human eye. They are a collective name for a type of domain creature. All creatures living in that level and domain world are called invisible creatures by us, which means creatures that we cannot see. You know, the visible light that we humans can see is only a very small range in the spectrum, and there are countless other large ranges that are invisible. This world and the universe are actually very dark to us. In this dark range, there are many, many lives that we cannot imagine, including even things you are familiar with, such as the consciousness of big trees. Big trees are also conscious. This was the first time Garen had heard of this idea, but he had experienced it too much, so he wasn't too surprised. Yes. The time level of many plants is different from ours. Their conscious actions are slow and lengthy. One movement, one reaching out, may take several months to complete. They are naturally conscious. When we come into contact with the consciousness of such creatures, we should not get too close. They have always been unfriendly to humans. You know why? So although many of these plant consciousnesses have amazing years of experience and valuable knowledge, it is impossible for us to obtain it. Then why do some people see scenes in their dreams that they have never seen before? There are even rumors that some people have dreamed about what will happen in the future. Garen continued to ask. This is not something you can touch now. It's better to do the step well first, and I am not omniscient. The universe is so mysterious, and time and space change endlessly, and no one can completely see through it. All we have to do is just achieve what we want. Hessaz dropped the last meaningful words and slowly fell into silence. This was Galen's first time coming into contact with such a system theory. 1/3 of human time is spent in sleep. The so-called dreamless sleep is just sleep where one does not remember one's dreams. It is impossible for anyone not to dream. After so many years of evolution, the human body has eliminated countless unnecessary functions, but sleep has always existed. It cannot be unreasonable. For the first time, Garen felt that his understanding of himself was far from adequate. After meditating in the swimming pool for a long time, he slowly stood up from the water. The maid came over and put a towel around him to dry the water on him. Sitting on a white lounge chair next to the swimming pool, with lush green trees and grass behind it, small lamp holders are placed on the edge of the white stone tiles of the entire swimming pool, emitting light yellow light, like small cylinders. Body lantern. Garen simply lay down on the lounge chair and looked up at the stars in the sky. The evening breeze blew in, and waves of coolness hit his face. In the brightly lit villa on the left, 2 maids could be vaguely seen cleaning the room and changing the curtains. Unknowingly, Garen's eyes slowly closed, and waves of sleepiness filled his mind. In a daze, there was a muffled sound in my ears. Bang! He opened his eyes and saw a white thing hitting him from the corner of his eye. His body rolled involuntarily, rolled several times on the edge of the swimming pool, and stood firmly at the entrance and exit of the back door of the villa. Looking back, a familiar shadow suddenly came into view. Where he originally lay, there was a huge white doll 5 meters high standing, like a doll made of plasticine. The body was also mixed with many doll limbs and heads, which looked extremely weird. Another white doll, Gia, moved his body and realized that he was asleep. Long-term practice allowed him to concentrate as much as possible and move freely even in his sleep. Be careful, This doll is different from the previous ones, it should be at the squad leader level. Hessaz's voice sounded low in his ears. I know, Garen nodded. The white doll strode over. Its big feet stepped on the water of the swimming pool, but it was like stepping on smooth glass, showing no sign of sinking. There are no facial features on the chubby head, only a doll's white calf sticking out like a white antennae. The squad leader level white doll is more than twice as powerful as an ordinary doll, so you have to be careful, Hessaz said in a solemn tone. Garen didn't reply. He dodged right to avoid the white doll's punch. Click. The puppet's fist hit the ground, as if it were hitting ice or glass, causing countless cracks on the ground. Garen circled around the white doll in a bath towel. This big guy moved slowly. Although its recovery was amazing, it was not difficult to solve it as long as you were careful. Before getting the key, he might have to be extremely careful to prevent his fist from getting stuck and sinking in when he hits the puppet. But that's not needed now. Their movements are getting more and more intensive. I don't know why, but I seem to smell an uncomfortable smell. It's a very familiar smell, but I can't remember what it is. You'd better be careful, Hessaz warned. Boom. Suddenly, a dull crashing sound came out inexplicably. The movement of the white doll stopped, and it stood aside and looked at Garen quietly. Boom. There was another muffled sound. Boom. 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 The sound sounded continuously and rhythmically. It's like a lot of metal drums beating together, mixed with a lot of sounds. Around the pool villa, the rare wood seemed to dimly transform into tall, twisted and blurry walls filled with dark vortices. Huge figures slowly walked out of the dark whirlpool, and it turned out to be a white puppet team leader who was also 5 meters tall. Garan was surrounded by dolls, and the floor area of the swimming pool seemed to have suddenly expanded a lot, becoming much wider. It was actually enough for these dolls to stand on it freely without looking crowded. Are you serious this time? Garen bowed slightly, his eyes becoming sharper. You will die if you are not careful, Hessaz responded. Watch out for their mud splatter, don't let the white mud stick to them. 6 white puppet captains surrounded Garen in the center. Each of them can exert an impact of more than 4 tons, so don't confront them head-on, Hessaz reminded quickly. 4 tons, Garen curled his lips and slammed his right foot on the ground. With a bang, a white stone measuring more than 1 meter bounced up from the ground, and he caught it in his hand. Hiss. Amidst a fierce and huge inhalation sound, Garen's body bent back, like a curved bowstring, his chest swelled high, and a large amount of airflow formed a substantial white airflow cyclone between his mouth and nose. Boom. Boom. Like lightning, the stone in Garen's hand was thrown out wildly, spinning at high speed like a white ring, and slashed towards a white doll directly in front of him. There was a muffled sound, bang. The white doll fell to the ground with a crash, and its entire upper body was as if it had been hit by a cannonball. It was so mangled that it was impossible to see its original appearance. Call. Garen slowly exhaled, and white air filled the air all over his body. The muscles of his entire body were slightly bulging, larger than before, showing a slightly black and extremely smooth texture. I'll rub it. You took the medicine. Hessaz was stunned for a moment, and finally spoke in a dry voice. Garen didn't reply. He walked to the edge of the villa and punched the stone pillar he was holding. With a bang, the stone pillar was broken, and Garen held it with one hand, pulling it out like a huge stick. The 2-headed dolls rushed over from behind him, and their huge white fists slammed down on Garen's head. At the same time, little bits of white mud continued to fall from their bodies. The mud dripped onto the ground, and pungent and choking smoke suddenly appeared. Before the white fist could hit Garen's back, the 2 puppets made a roar and were hit hard by the white stone pillars. The stone pillars instantly shattered into stone powder, and their bodies were directly broken into 2 sections. It turned into countless white mud and decomposed in mid-air. The remaining 3 white dolls rushed toward Garen without fear of death. trying to suppress Garen with their huge bodies. Boiling mud rolled on the surface of their bodies. Garen turned sideways, swept his right leg violently, and his toes instantly drew a sharp arc, causing an extremely violent scream in the air. The moment the toes came into contact with the white doll's body, it was like a sharp-edged magic weapon, instantly splitting the white doll into two sections. Tisk tisk tisk. The tip of his toes drew a large semicircle arc in front of Garen, and with a violent scream, he directly cut the three white dolls into 6 sections. The 6-section huge body fell heavily to the ground, making a dull sound. Their vitality extremely strong, he was still rolling and struggling on the ground, trying to put his body back together again. But he was immediately hit in the head by a few rocks that Garen shot casually. The small rocks shot out with explosive power like cannonballs, instantly blowing the three-headed doll's head to pieces. For a moment, the entire pool area became quiet and everything became calm. Garen shook off the white mud splattered on his body, and his bath towel was corroded into tatters. However, the skin on the body is still intact. This is the terrifying effect after the physical constitution reaches 7 points. He walked a few steps to the bodies of the white dolls and collected their void cores one by one. Your strength. Hessa suddenly didn't know how to describe Garen. The person who was originally clear in his eyes was now covered with a layer of fog and became mysterious. From being beaten almost to death by a white doll soldier at the beginning, to now being able to fight against a 6-headed captain-level doll alone, he couldn't understand Galleons at all with such a gap. This time seems different from before. Garen suddenly said. Hessas came back to his senses and immediately smelled the unpleasant smell again. It was obviously a quiet aroma, but it just felt more and more unpleasant to him. In the surrounding environment, the white doll corpses on the ground gradually disappeared, and everything fell into silence. Careful! Hide to the right! Hessa suddenly felt a strong crisis coming from the past. The speed was unbelievable, like a bolt of lightning, even the blink of an eye could not match the speed of this moment. That white light burst out from 10 meters in front, and in an instant it was in front of Garen's face. Clang! Amidst the huge metal collision, countless white smoke exploded, forming a ring like a dark cloud of dust. Garen folded his arms in front of him and clamped a silver-white sword firmly in his palms. The veins in his arms were exposed, and the muscles all over his body swelled fiercely. There was a constant creaking sound of struggle between the palms and the blade of the blade. Under his feet, 2 huge spider web cracks spread out evenly and spread to the ground around the entire swimming pool. You actually caught it, Hessas shouted in disbelief. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 647. Good sword skills. Garen's eyes flashed with indescribable light. In the middle of the swimming pool, when the smoke cloud slowly dispersed, a slender and tall woman emerged from behind a silver-white sword that was more than 3 meters long. This is a very weird woman. She has a hot and curvy figure. She is wearing a milky white solid-colored waist skirt with no sleeves. The skirt is split from both sides like a cheongsam, revealing her long, fair, and round legs. The woman's hair was black, and the daguan knife in her hand suddenly retracted, whistling and dancing in the air, making a circle, and then it was inserted into the ground beside her with a bang. The handle of the knife was deeply inserted and fixed on the ground. The most bizarre thing is her face. She wore a slightly black metal mask on her face, with the left half of the mask showing a frown and the right half showing joy. My dearest brother. When the woman spoke, it was not a female voice, but a low and magnetic male voice, and the language she used was actually the ancient pronunciation polyglot that Garen was familiar with. Rebels, even rebels have appeared. What kind of luck are you? Hessas's voice actually fluctuated abnormally. This is simply not the level you are facing now. Garen's expression was expressionless and he ignored Hessas's exclamation. Call. He blew out a stream of white air, then took another deep breath. His right hand brought out countless after images on his chest, and instantly touched an acupuncture point in the center of his chest. Laugh. The muscles there suddenly sank, forming a deep pit, and then a blast of air burst out. Garen's body suddenly expanded again, his arms turned black, and the skin of his hands was like black metal, extremely hard. "Who are you?" Garen said in a low voice. "Who is Al?" The woman chuckled lightly, and her laughter was like a silver bell. It was obviously a woman's laughter, but as soon as she opened her mouth, it turned into a man's magnetic voice. "You have my brother's blood in your body, the blood of the nine-headed dragon of the void, and you don't know it? Even its soul and will are integrated with yours. I have been looking for it for so long." She stretched out her right hand, her white jade-like fingers were slender and round, and with a flip of her fingers, a brass-colored coin suddenly appeared like magic. On the front of the coin is a ferocious dragon head pattern, and on the back is a pattern of 3 rings in series. "I finally found its bloodline. As for me," she chuckled, "I am the rebel you often call me. I am a rebel who is willing to become a clan of void creatures. At least at the Legion level, every rebel is at least Legion level." Hessas spoke in Garen's ear. "That's a high-end general who leads a large army of void creatures. It would be fine if my body were here, but now. Are you here to kill me too?" Garen stared at the other person, his voice getting deeper and deeper. "Kill you?" The other party smiled coquettishly, as if he had heard something extremely interesting. "This is not called killing, this is called purification. Our civilizations in the void and the underworld have always been absolutely feuding. There is no room for reconciliation, is there? It has always been my dream to fight against a strong man." Garen raised his legs and began to slowly walk towards the opponent. His steps were heavy and powerful, as if the entire dream world was shaking with his steps. "Interesting." The other party put away his smile, and looked at Garen for the first time under the mask. "It seems that you are also an outstanding person in the underworld civilization. Back then, I achieved the Supreme 81 demon slaying, and among the strongest people I met, only Caps can have such pure fighting spirit as you. The other party was once a top master in secret martial arts. Any rebel was once an outstanding strongman in the warlock civilization. Be careful. Their secret martial arts were also at the absolute top level." Hessas reminded in a low voice. There was no need for Hessas to remind him. Garen had already felt that the other party was definitely like him, at least a top master at the level of King of the Century or above. The secret martial arts had reached an appalling level. In this world, in the secret martial arts he practiced, the killing hand was put aside by him, so only the 7-star secret points he created and compiled together with the fighting skills were the strongest. The rest of the biphasic water bird boxing and ordinary fighting techniques are unlikely to work on an opponent of this level. As their opponents at this level, any technique or secret method with a slightly simpler connotation can be quickly integrated and combined to create a similar secret method just by reading it once. This has simply reached the point where all methods are unified. In the field of secret martial arts, they have reached the level of well-deserved masters. Only unique, extremely complex, and exquisite powerful secret methods are the unique means they can use. There are even legendary masters who deliberately add many interference techniques to confuse the opponent's vision. The two stood facing each other. Just standing facing each other like this, the environment in the dream began to tear and fragment slightly. The environment of the surrounding swimming pool began to gradually tremble and collapse, and pieces of black fragments fell from above. The environment is like a virtual background simulated by wall coverings. It's a pity that you haven't reached the peak you want yet. Your body is still too young, the woman whispered. 10 years. What? Garen raised his hand, ready to open the 2nd-star secret point. The other party's invisible release of energy made him feel breathless. I have been waiting for you for 10 years, hoping that you can reach the peak, the woman continued. If. Boom. There was a loud noise, and countless black fragments of gravel flew behind Garen. He stretched out his arms and rushed towards the opponent, like a terrifying giant beast flying towards prey. "It won't take 10 years, he growled. In the dream, two black and white figures collided fiercely. Second star. Garen's body expanded ferociously again, and his whole body became more than 2 meters tall. His skin turned black all over, like a metal giant. He raised his arms and struck at the woman like a big axe. Having activated his second star, his current high-speed explosive power has hundreds of tons of terrifying power. His arms were like the hardest weapons, and he hit the woman's huge sword with a loud clang. In an instant, the blade of Guandeo vibrated rapidly and at high speed, like a chainsaw pulling back and forth. A strange stickiness came out from the blade, firmly sticking to Garen's arms. To be precise, it should be biting. There were vaguely white air-like snake dragons lingering on the surface of the blade. They snaked around the blade and bit Garen's arms with their mouths open. Garen's arms pressed against the Guandeo blade, and the two vibrated at high speed, and golden sparks spattered out. The woman was hit by a huge force. Hundreds of tons of terrifying force were instantly applied to her body, hitting her so hard that the two of them flew back together. Dragon spine slash, there was excitement on her face, which was the strong fighting spirit shown by a strong person when encountering a strong one. An inexplicable white sword light shot out from behind her and shot toward Garen's neck. Like the back and tail of a giant dragon, it flicked its tail hard. The terrifying power she burst out at this moment instantly reached or even exceeded Garen's power at this time. The speed of the sword light was extremely fast. Garen's arms were stuck by the Daguan sword and he couldn't get away at all. He could only watch the sword light coming. Without any time to think, he instantly leaned back and bent over, stabilized his body, lifted his right leg and stepped on the ground. Bang! Amidst the loud noise, countless gravels flew out from the ground at high speed, but the woman did not pay attention at all and allowed the gravels to hit her body, but there was not even a trace of injury. But Garen's purpose was not this. A large amount of gravel flew straight up and hit the side of the sword, causing it to rise slightly and completely deviate from its original direction. Garen suddenly exerted his strength, retracted his leg and gave a knee strike, which happened to collide with the woman's same kick. With a bang, the two people separated directly with the instant reaction force. The dream finally collapsed completely, and the two of them were suddenly in a completely dark space, with nothing around them but darkness. "I retract my previous contempt," the woman felt the last of her strength and said seriously. She looked around. "It's a pity that this place can no longer bear our duel. I will come to you. Remember my name is Nadia." The voice of High Dragon King Nadia Hessas finally came again. "I'm Garen." Garen looked at the other person's figure slowly disappearing into the darkness, and whispered his name. "Garen, it won't be long before we meet again." Nadia's voice came from afar, gradually getting smaller and weaker. There is no echo until it completely disappears. "You are in luck, Nine-Headed Dragon King." Nadia, one of the famous rebels of our time. She has 99 and 81 lives. Each death will make her twice as powerful until the end. Once she dies, her power will be superimposed to 81 times its original strength, making her unimaginably powerful. Hessa seemed to recall the scene at that time. Garen immediately recalled the situation when he obtained the Nine-Headed Dragon talent in the Totem world. Although the 9-life talent can be resurrected 9 times, it is far behind Nadia. 81 times Garen's current strength is close to the top level in the Totem world. Although his physical fitness is not as good as that, then, after superimposing the 7-star life-pointing secret point and opening the 2nd star, it is equivalent to an attribute point increase. It has doubled to more than twice the original amount, which is about blackjack. But such consumption must increase the vitality in his killing hands. His own physical recovery power is not enough to satisfy the activation of the 2nd star. As for the 3rd star, the 4th star, and even the final 7th star, Garen is still far from reaching that level of power. After his own quality has improved, every time he activates a star, his consumption will become much greater. His stored vitality is no longer enough to be used later. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 648. Click. With a crisp sound, Garen suddenly opened his eyes on the recliner. He didn't know when he lay down on the recliner and fell asleep. He rubbed his head and slowly supported his body, feeling aches all over his body. That one just now, is it true? Hesaz's voice came out immediately. If you want to die, you can think of him as a fake. Nine-headed dragon King Nadia, a legendary guy like this has actually appeared, and you actually made an appointment with her for a decisive battle here later. I don't know how you have the courage to do so. This is not how you seek death. Law. Will she let me go if I don't ask for a fight? Garen sat up calmly. Of course not. Then the difference between asking for a fight and not asking for a fight is the same. Garen stood up from the lounge chair. The surroundings were quiet, with the faint sound of crickets and crickets. The Blackwoods were dim and dim under the lights beside the swimming pool, looking mysterious and quiet. A maid was sitting at the back door of the villa, holding onto the door frame drowsily, her head almost hanging down on the small round table with bath towels next to it. Garen recalled everything that had just happened, as if it was all just a dream. He walked slowly around the swimming pool. There was no sign of damage to the entire swimming pool, just like usual. Suddenly his eyes narrowed and he stopped by a white lounge chair on the right side of the swimming pool. He squatted down and slowly picked up a small thing from the ground beside the chair. It was a coin that seemed to be made of some kind of copper, with a pattern of 3 intersecting rings on it. He turned over the coin, and there was a ferocious dragon head pattern on it. He suddenly recalled the coins in Nadia's hand when she left. This is the coin she left behind as a token and coordinates with this thing. No ordinary void creature will interfere with you again until she appears in person, Hesaz explained. Galleon squeezed the coin gently. Vaguely, he felt as if he had seen something made of this kind of material somewhere. Suddenly, he quickly recalled a scene in his mind. Among the cultural relics he obtained from the man in black this time, one of the cultural relics was a similar metal copper mask, but the mask was slightly black, while the coin was brass, but somehow he just associated the two. What material is this thing made of? Garen asked in a low voice. I don't know, maybe it was cast after Nadia joined the void creatures. Who knows? Anyway, since she became a rebel, every time she killed an official opponent without showing respect, she would issue this coin. You ask this what? Who cares what material she is cast from? Hesaz was a little confused. Nothing. Garen said no more. It seems that he has to search for various cultural relics everywhere. I don't know when Nadia will come again next time, but it will definitely not be too late. He remembered that mask inexplicably. If he started from that mask, he might have unexpected gains. Such an intuition vaguely emerged in his mind. In the universe of void dreams, in the endless darkness, 2 figures suddenly flashed past quickly, like 2 comets quickly cutting through the darkness, bringing out snow-white light. This is the dark realm of dreams that no one has ever ventured into, a space realm where illusion and reality overlap. Everything here is an extension of consciousness and dreams, and is not the real physical world of existence. But it can also affect the material world. 2 white comets quickly pulled out 2 long white tails and flashed past in the darkness. In the white light, there are 2 tall and thin men and women. The man's eyebrows and hair are all red, a dark red like blood. His short hair is constantly rising back. He is wrapped in a white cloak and has a black ring of thorns on his back. Pattern. The woman has long blue hair hanging down to her waist, as soft as satin. Her facial features are exquisite, but her eyes have no sparkle at all. If you look closely, you can find that her eyes have no pupils, just 2 sapphire-like crystal beads. She was wearing light blue clothes fitting soft armor, which seemed to have ripple-like white metal patterns on it. Her exquisite and beautiful curves were completely outlined by the soft armor, as if she was wearing a blue tights. This is already the dark room of Nadia's dream. She is definitely nearby, the man said in a low voice in ancient Yinduo language. Elfith, can you see any movement? The blue-haired woman seemed to be listening to something. After a moment, she frowned slightly. She seemed to have fought with someone. The other person was not an ordinary character. The two destroyed the dream and separated. After that, Nadia left. Her specific whereabouts are unclear. Who can fight her? The man also frowned. Those white dolls alone are difficult to deal with. I don't know. Ever since we gave up the physical body and entered the void dreamland, my ability to see has become weaker and weaker. I have tested it and it is still normal when targeting other things. It's just that there is a problem with Nadia. I doubt it. She found some way to deal with my abilities. Elfith whispered. We are different from void creatures. They can draw power from this dream void, but we cannot. Other stalkers should have a solution, right? The man asked. I don't know if there are any other stalkers, maybe there are only the two of us around here. There has been no news from the headquarters for many years. Elfith's voice became lower and lower. Both of them gradually fell silent, as if they were in no mood to say anything more. Nine-headed dragon king Nadia is a taboo term in the legends of many worlds. She has many names. Good demon king, dragon mother, destruction dragon, spirit realm Yuanzun, etc. Her power is powerful and brilliant. Every time she dies, she is liberated, and her strength will continue to double. They have been chasing Nadia for countless years, and have experienced the feeling of despair and pain countless times. Countless stalkers died at her hands. They were deliberately spared every time because they were Nadia's original companions and friends. This made them want to chase each other even more, and truly kill her. Ask clearly why you betrayed. But Nadia seemed to be hiding from them every time. There seems to be the presence of other stalkers in this world, Elfith suddenly said. Other stalkers? Is it the prophet Kamito? Or the flame scythe, or the giant Sisyphus? The man asked in a low voice. The people he mentioned were all stalkers they had known over the years, although they were far inferior to Nadia is powerful, but each one has an extremely unique secret method of escape, so they can survive intact to this day. Together with these people, they may be Gaian Duo's last pursuers. The vast majority of the rest are ordinary hunters who are no longer qualified, that is, ordinary people who cannot reach a certain height in practicing secret martial arts. Together, they can at most deal with void bugs. As for white dolls, void devourers, and the like, level, it is far beyond what they can resist. No matter how powerful you are in the real world, if you are not trained in the dream world, you can only be a piece of fat meat that can be slaughtered by others. Among the last remnants of Gaian Duo, they are the only ones who can freely grasp Nadia's whereabouts in the dream void and deal with attacks from other void creatures. They are the protectors of the entire remnant. The final glory of the warlocks may only end with their generation. In the void of dreams, in a dark area, a red balloon-like bubble suddenly appeared in the area. It was only as big as a fist at first, and then quickly expanded, becoming as big as blowing air. Soon, the red bubble had an area of 1 kilometer in radius. Inside the bubble, Nadia was wearing a moon-white waist skirt, holding a huge silver-white sword lightly in her hand. She was standing quietly on an ancient battlefield with blood flowing everywhere. This was the scene inside the bubble. The sky over the ancient battlefield was a bloody sickle moon. There were no stars, and the sky was blood red. The earth is full of black hills and ravines, and blood is constantly flowing in the ravines and hills, making a tidal sound as if there is life. Time passed by minute, Nadia's eyes were slightly closed, as if she was waiting for something. A few days later, suddenly, Blood splashed on the black ground directly in front of her, and a huge puppet with its head covered in black slowly climbed up from the ground. Ouch! They let out trembling roars, as if they separated from the earth and emerged from the ground. They were about the same height and shape as the white dolls, but the difference was that their entire bodies were covered with armor like black spikes, making them extremely ferocious. Each of these black dolls is more than 6 meters tall. They line up in a queue and consciously form an orderly array. They were so densely packed that it was almost impossible to count how many there were. Nadia, a deep man's voice came from far away from the array. What are you doing here? This is my lair, not a place for you to visit. Nothing, just walking around out of boredom. Nadia opened her eyes and said calmly. She glanced at the densely packed black dolls. Is this the latest unit you mobilized? It looks very annoying. She suddenly grasped the 3-meter-long sword. Densely packed, it's annoying just to look at it. With a clang, the broadsword was pulled out from the ground. 3 auroras. Before the voice fell, 3 rays of silver-white sword light suddenly shot out, turning into 3 vortexes of silver-white sword light, and instantly swept towards the dense black doll. Centered at Nadia's feet, 3 whirlpools of silver light with a diameter of tens of meters suddenly flew out, like 3 big silver mouths, rushing into the black puppet team. Nadia, the voice roared in shock and anger. It was mixed with the crazy screams of the black doll. But to no avail. 3 groups of silver whirlpool swords actively devoured the black puppet troops at extremely fast speeds. In just 10 seconds, a large number of the black puppet troops were completely destroyed with only their stumps and broken arms. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 649. What? Do you have any objections? Nadia took back her sword and said calmly. The voice didn't dare to say any more. It just let out an angry low roar that couldn't be suppressed. It was like all the roars were stuck in the throat, but they were blocked there and they didn't dare to vent them out. Nadia looked up at the sky. The weather is bad, which makes me in a bad mood. I'm very irritable. She suddenly stepped on her foot, and the whole red bubble suddenly burst. The originally delicate film on the surface quickly spread with tiny cracks, and then from where she was in the sky, it instantly spread to the entire surrounding surface. Bang! The bubbles exploded instantly like glass balls. The voice let out a cry of pain, but did not dare to say any more words. Only a pair of hostile bloody eyes were left in the darkness, staring closely at Nadia. He understood that if he could still reason with her when she was sane, but wanted to talk more when she was crazy, then there was only one fate, waiting for death. Nadia never cares whether you are the same kind or not. Everyone knows that she has killed many stalkers and hunters, but only the void creatures understand that the number of void creatures she killed is far more than that. I'm unlucky. Just treat it like a natural disaster. The Void Lord was filled with resentment, but he also knew that he could only swallow the bitter fruit in this matter. No living thing could kill Nadia. She had 8 qualities that made people despair. With 11 lives, if you kill her once with a sneak attack, she will be resurrected instantly, and she will be twice as powerful. Perhaps those warlocks who stood at the pinnacle of ancient times, the true demon kings and the void creature Great Abyss, could deal with her, but those legendary existences have been dead for thousands of years. There was only a little bit of true spirit left in the Mother River, but that was of no use. Nadia has always been wandering around according to her mood. Her mood is unpredictable and her mood changes constantly, so no one has ever figured out her behavior clearly, but everyone knows the most important thing. That means don't offend her when she's in a bad mood. This Void Lord just came from other dream realms. His own power is extremely terrifying, far exceeding the level of Nadia in her original state. Maybe even if she explodes with more than half of her 81 lives, she may not be weaker than the opponent. This has not been compared. But the problem is, Nadia is the type who dares to fight you when she is in a bad mood. She is the kind of pure fighting madman. A guy who is at least about the same level as herself will easily fight you. Moreover, Nadia is the guy is actually a lot stronger than him. No one wants to face this situation. Void creatures have a long lifespan, and no one will look for someone to kill them at every turn. The voice no longer sounded, but left quietly and silently. Nadia was floating alone in the void, surrounded by blood-red bubble fragments. She vibrated the long knife at will, rolled up a layer of white knife light, and completely scattered the surrounding fragments. Then he flew aimlessly towards the unknown dark void with a bored look on his face. The subtle blood connection faintly transmitted back from the void was the only sign she could be sure of. It was the blood of her brother, the blood of the nine-headed dragon. As long as he follows this direction, he will eventually be able to locate the world in the previous dream, and then use the coin she forcibly sent to come to reality. Not long after Nadia completely disappeared into the void, two snow-white comets flew into this dreamland filled with floating debris. There were two mysterious figures wearing grey cloaks. The two looked around in confusion, but found no trace of void creatures. It's the aura left by the nine-headed dragon king. It's a bit troublesome. Let's go around in a different direction. That's all we can do. It's unlucky. I have bad luck today. If it had gone smoothly, I might have been there long ago. Being anxious won't solve anything. After a small exchange, the two turned a corner and continued flying in a certain direction in front of them. They hunters have carefully memorized and recognized the aura left by any powerful existence. Only the hunters can deal with such existences. They should stay away from them when they encounter them. Do you really want to give up the magic killing technique? Hessaz asked helplessly. Galen sat cross-legged alone in a quiet room in the villa. His whole body was filled with invisible air currents, his eyes were closed, and his whole person was immersed in a state of extreme concentration and clarity. I won't give up, but I won't continue practicing in depth, he replied in a low voice. Isn't that equivalent to abandonment? Hessaz was helpless. On Garen's crossed legs in front of him, there was a strange black copper mask. This mask was the cultural relic that provided her with the most potential points. He found it and placed it next to her. It had been more than 10 days since the battle with Nadia. Garen gathered all the void cores he had obtained these days. This thing was extremely strong and seemed to have some special effect. It has a very good containment effect on the pollution and injuries caused by void creatures. The core of the void can enhance the strength of the void stalker in disguised form through special conversion. It can be absorbed by you and become a special power that is as alive as life, Hessaz explained in a low voice. Stalkers are all strong men who are at least very strong in the realm of secret martial arts. Although there is indeed no threshold, guys who have no strength or insufficient strength can become stalkers. They are just looking for death, and the void creatures will tear them into pieces and eat them as soon as possible. In fact, by swearing to the Mother River, the stalkers' physiques have undergone different changes. I've felt it, Garen nodded. He was resimulating his northern halberdier's cold flame true water evil art, trying to modify some of the parts that were not allowed by the rules of this world. The basic physical laws of this world have been slightly changed, causing the power of this evil skill to be greatly reduced, and it can no longer condense the powerful blue ice halberd. But there is still a large part of the content that is of high value. He is now decomposing this part of it, and this part seems to be the most original part. The core of the void seemed to have some strange calming effect on him. It seemed to be able to provide his consciousness with a steady stream of energy, keeping his consciousness in a state of high-speed thinking. At the same time, these cores are slowly melting and shrinking. As Garen's subtle realizations came to him, he felt more and more that his consciousness seemed to be moving closer to the direction of void creatures. The core of the void seemed to produce some kind of radiation, causing his consciousness to gradually move closer to the nature of void creatures. There doesn't seem to be anything bad about this change. On the contrary, it has the effect of becoming more and more calm and high speed. For those who practice esoteric martial arts, this is simply the most ideal way to deduce the mental state of esoteric martial arts. Garen somewhat understood why some secret warriors would choose to defect to void creatures. The only difference between stalkers and rebels seems to be the oath. Stalkers have the ultimate oath to hunt down void creatures forever. His thinking became more and more flexible, and he became more sensitive and powerful in thinking about secret martial arts. The core part of the northern halberd or Hanyan Zhen Shui Xiegong was quickly eliminated by him. He was surprised to find that the core part was actually the two secret martial art seeds of life that he obtained from the ruins. This part of the content can be completely used in all worlds, and it is surprisingly the two secret martial art seeds of life that were obtained at the beginning. Garen couldn't remember how long he had been sitting in meditation, but when he completely separated the core part, the evil content that could be used universally in this world, he truly realized that the creator of the secret weapon of life was powerful. Place. It turns out that this is the true meaning of seeds. Garen understood for the first time why the secret weapon of life looks like seeds. It is simply to facilitate the growth according to the rules of different worlds. Just like the same seed, it will grow with different effects in the soil of different regions. The secret martial arts of life is even more exaggerated, and it can even produce completely different secret martial arts effects. With the help of the Void Core, Garen fully understood this. Hesaz was still nagging in his ears, seeming to be persuading him to change his mind and continue practicing the magic of killing. But he has found a way to continuously transform the vitality stored in the killing demonic art into new nutrients for the secret martial arts of life. Recalling the core knowledge of the secret martial arts of life, Garen sat cross-legged in the center of the room. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and stared at the invisible air in front of him. In the field of vision that only he could see, two bright light spots appeared in front of him without knowing when, slowly floating up and down in front of him. They were two light spots, one dark red and one dark blue. This is the first seed. Garen recalled the scene when he first got two living secret martial arts seeds. The ice blue giant bird flapped its wings and flew. The giant bird had slender tail feathers, like the legendary divine bird phoenix, but it carried an unparalleled terrifying cold air all over its body. The tip of its long beak was condensed with blue light dot seeds. The dark red one is a huge demonic figure. He has a long spiked tail and is surrounded by flames. However, he is as polite as a gentleman and gives people an elegant and charming temperament. In front of the devil, there is a black and red cross sword, which is the seed prototype of the metal life secret martial arts. Its body emerges as the black and red cross sword. These two may be the true secret martial arts knowledge that can be used in any world's laws. Garen realized deeply. He once practiced in the wrong direction, and he wasted a lot of energy and time by choosing the demonic killing art. Now, it was time for him to redetermine his direction. Practicing the demonic killing art was not without gain. There is also a new and profound understanding of the principle, and the killing magic skill has the function of storing vitality, which can be used as a backup energy bank to restore injuries, just like the 9-life talent of the 9-headed dragon, adding enough survivability to oneself. He now has his own secret method of 7-star life-pointing secret points. Even without using any secret martial arts, he can reach a terrifying level of strength. Once he continues to practice secret martial arts, his strength will jump to a new level. Perhaps in this there is hope that the world can surpass the peak strength level of the totem world. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 650. Garen looked at the two light spots floating in front of him and hesitated for a moment. These two light spots were not entities, but the manifestation of two parts of knowledge in his mind. He was lucky enough to fuse a powerful evil skill last time, but he can't be so lucky every time. He concentrated for a moment, then stretched out his hand and touched the ice blue seeds. The moment his fingers touched the ice blue seeds, a familiar myographic image suddenly appeared in the attribute column in Garen's field of vision. It was a giant ice sculpture bird fluttering its wings and about to fly. Its feathers elegant and charming, with countless white chills lingering all over the body, like a mythical ice and snow phoenix. The unnamed secret martial arts, the first level entry, the secret martial arts born with cold attributes, 4 levels in total. Garen's expression was normal, but he felt a little bit of coldness circulating inside his body, and then radiated countless terrifying amounts of ice blue cold air threads. These threads were connected to his skin and internal organs, forming a huge and complex network. As if he was familiar with the road, with a body that has been transformed by soul seeds since he was a child, and with terrifyingly powerful physical attributes, Garen entered the door almost instantly. The difficulty of consciousness in the secret martial arts of life did not pose any difficulty to him at all. "You actually changed it," Hessas shouted. "He is actually still a secret martial artist." The demonic killing technique was quickly being counteracted by the secret martial arts of life. Originally, the demonic killing technique was supposed to devour the secret martial arts of life. However, under the suppression of Supervisor Garen's consciousness, its devouring instinct was completely controlled, and it could only let those with cold attributes the secret martial arts of life slowly devours and digests it. Because the demonic physique that was originally cultivated has reached a higher level, the most basic part of the transformation to the secret martial arts of the cultivator was passed almost instantly. But later on, you need to slowly grind and transform the differences in your own physique. You are crazy. Do you know how long it will take to get back to your current level of strength? You have abolished the magic power. The higher the level of the secret martial arts of life, the less vitality stored in the arm, and the weaker the 7-star secret method you can activate. Your overall strength will become weaker and weaker. You are seeking death. Hessas shouted, trying to redeem Garen's decision. "I don't need impure things," Garen replied lightly. The replenishment of vitality is indeed an ability that is helpful to his secret method of 7-star life pointing secret points, but this does not stop his determination to modify Hessas's magic power. There are definitely hidden traps that no one knows about. Instead of continuing on such a path, it is better to rebuild and take a gamble that he can find more potential points of cultural relics before Nadia arrives. Anyway, even with his original strength, he can't beat Nadia. His path is becoming more and more complicated, so it is better to just stay on one path. There haven't been any replies from Galleons recently. Jason was helping Tries adjust the eggs in a bored manner, and the egg beater was vigorously stirring in the large bowl. "You are already in your 20s. You don't even have a girlfriend, and now I have to worry about your lifelong events." Therese stood busy in the kitchen. "He planned to make an egg yolk pie, but unfortunately what's wrong is that I always feel like something is wrong with the steps." Jason stood at the kitchen door. "Pass the prepared egg bowl. My little sister is the same. Ever since she entered puberty, she has become less and less respectful of my brother." He looked bored. "That's because you did something wrong, right?" Therese didn't have time to pay attention to her son's inner struggle. "Adolescent children are always rebellious, but compared to these, I care more about when you go to school. At this time your university should have started, right?" "Who knows? I'm not interested in going to college right now," Jason said tangledly. "This is not something you are interested in or not." Tries turned around with a gloomy look on her face. "If you dare not go to school, I will call Garen immediately and ask Galen to come back. You understand? Remember what you did when you were 20 years old. Did you cry after being beaten by Garen?" Jason flexed the muscles in his arm. "You can scream, I'm not afraid of him anymore." He looked at the bulge on his arm with satisfaction. "I'm already 100 kilograms now, look at my flesh." He tried his best to make movements like a bodybuilder, trying to promote his strong muscles. Oh my God, Therese didn't know how to evaluate this eldest son. Neither she nor Emma liked muscles. How could I give birth to a son with only muscles in his brain? By the way, did you know that the house on the edge of town was on fire? Therese asked. I heard that someone saw Ishiro and his sisters near that house. No, I was with them that day. We were swimming at the beach. How could we go to a place on fire over there? Jason replied blankly. No, it's okay. The police chief has come over to investigate and inquire. People from the city's police station have also come over to patrol. They are preparing to take some actions, but I believe that Ishiro and his sisters will not do such a thing as arson. They have no such intention. Motive. I will talk to Counselor John, and we can't just arbitrarily accuse a completely innocent citizen. Therese said a few words casually. Oh, Jason responded seemingly indifferently, but a hint of joy flashed in his eyes. I went to watch the replay of today's game. It's Battlefield Tank Cannon. You can't miss it? Go ahead, Therese was completely speechless about her son. Jason smiled, wearing a tight black t-shirt and jeans, trotted back to his room, slammed the door, and quickly turned up the computer volume so loudly that the sound of the game suddenly rang out. Gently lifting the curtains, Jason looked at the window of another house in the distance opposite. The house was all white, and the curtains on the second-floor window facing here were also gently lifted, revealing the face of a cute red-haired girl, Arissa. Jason stretched out his index finger and thumb and made an OK gesture. Over there, Alicia's little face suddenly showed a look of joy. She nodded gratefully to Jason, and then lowered the curtains. After a while, Jason's phone vibrated. He rushed over, picked up the phone and turned on the display. A text message was sent. It was from Alicia. The photo has been sent to your email. Trust me on my credibility, absolutely sexy. I took all these secret photos while my sister was changing clothes. Thank you so much. Jason was elated and quickly sent a reply. I grabbed my laptop and opened the mailbox, and sure enough I saw a large capacity email listed. Want something more exciting? A text message came from Alicia again. Think. Jason replied decisively. The whole person is about to hug the phone, as if it is the most precious treasure. As long as you do me one more favor. You say. As long as I can do it, I will never be sloppy. Jason clicked on the computer email and browsed for a while he skillfully transferred the photos inside into an extremely secret folder, and quickly renamed it, Ishiro Uncoded. Then a man sat on the edge with a lewd smile on his face. Help me get the latest photos of Brother Galen, just the latest ones. Don't use the old photos to add to the number. Several of the photos you gave me last time were old photos. Alexa was very dissatisfied. But he hasn't come back recently. There is nothing I can do. Aren't your hacking skills great? Take some more shots. Jason thought for a moment, quickly opened a secret file, compressed the contents into one file, and sent it directly. In another room, Alicia received the file with the same lewd smile, browsed it quickly, and then directly transferred the photos to a private folder and renamed it, Galen Uncoded HD. He, Alicia snickered with satisfaction. Alyssa. What are you doing? Help me get the bath water. Ishiro's voice came from the bathroom. Okay, Arissa quickly returned to the pure and innocent lady's temperament, straightened her appearance, and ran directly towards the bathroom. This trouble can be solved completely by using a few slightly revealing photos of her sister. Alicia is so smart, and she can also get the latest updated high-definition sexy photos of Brother Garen. The process was absolutely perfect. Ishiro let the water wash away from his body, closed his eyes and stood in the bathroom. Since the last battle with the vampire named Lars, she has suffered some troublesome injuries. She does not have the recovery power of the vampire. It has taken more than a month to recover from her injuries and she has barely returned to normal. She didn't want to get involved in such a troublesome matter. She originally just wanted to help Mr. Preto with a small thing and transfer everything to the vampires who came to take care of it. Then the sisters could completely return to their original ways. Live peacefully. But contrary to expectations, instead of calming down, things escalated. Especially after the battle with Lars, she was deeply involved. Within this month, she had encountered 3 consecutive sneak attacks by vampires. These vampires were like cannon fodder, constantly interfering with her rest and recovery. From the news coming from Preto, we learned that these vampires were sent by Lars. He fended off the intervention of other vampires. It seemed that it was too embarrassing to be injured by a mortal, so he claimed that he wanted to be independent by himself. Deal with them and save face. The disadvantage of this is that Lars is serious about it. A real low-level vampire is still the person in charge of the region. The consequences of being serious about this will be very troublesome. He may do whatever it takes to achieve his goals. The good thing is that Lars blocked the intervention of other vampires in disguise. Lars will be back soon. Acero understands this fact. Standing in the hot shower, she unconsciously raised her right hand, with her palm like a blade, and with a silent stroke, she actually made a clear gap in the surrounding water mist with a sneer. Since you can't escape, let's come. Her eyes cleared up from fatigue. Bang bang bang. Amidst the rhythmic knocking on the door of the white villa opened with a click, revealing the face of a pretty girl inside. Please come in, the master is in the study on the 2nd floor, the girl in a white maid uniform said to the visitor in a low voice. Haseman walked into the villa with a calm expression. 2 bodyguards, 1 male and 1 female, behind him wanted to follow, but he stopped them with one hand. You stay outside. The 2 of them paused when they heard this, and stood at the door with their heads slightly lowered. Haseman walked into the lobby on the 1st floor. His figure became stronger and more well-proportioned. He was 2 meters tall. Even his clothes could not hide the muscles on his body. His lines were sharp and angular, and his hair was combed back one by one like barbs. He got up, wearing a suit and leather shoes. The suit was slightly purple-black, and the black shirt was slightly open, revealing an amethyst necklace pendant on his chest. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 651. Walking up the stairs to the 2nd floor, when he reached the corner, he heard the sound of the door opening again below. Please come in, the master is waiting for you on the 2nd floor. The maid's voice came for the 2nd time. Haseman stood at the corner and looked down, just in time to see Dam in a red trench coat walking through the door with a smile on his face and dark red lips, like coagulated blood. Dam was also much stronger than before. When he raised his head, their eyes met instantly, and the air seemed to freeze for a moment. The men brought by the 2 men were all nervous. They had already held their waists and were ready to draw their guns at any time. You came quite early. Dam smiled and waved to him. Horseman nodded slightly. The 2 of them greeted each other as if they were visiting a friend's house, and then walked up to the 2nd floor one after another. Dam, like Horseman, kept his men outside. The 2 stepped on the dark brown floor and walked to the study door at the end of the 2nd floor. Haseman knocked on the door gently. Boom, boom, boom. Come in. A gentle and calm voice came from inside. The door was unlocked, so Haseman opened the door gently. The room inside was covered with thick gray velvet carpet, which was soft to the touch. There are vertical bright yellow lamp holders on both sides, emitting bright yellow light. The whole room is gray, with gray wall coverings on the walls and gray accents on the tables and chairs. There is a long table and 2 leather chairs in the middle of the room. Garin was sitting behind the long table, leaning sideways as if looking at something. He looked over with a smile when he heard a noise. Entering the room, Haseman sat on a leather chair on the left. The armrests and back of the chair had curved arcs, which were round but not sharp. The edges were also inlaid with light golden lace. It was not clear without looking carefully. Understated yet gorgeous. Dam also walked in and sat on another leather chair. Both of them noticed the rows of framed photos and oil paintings hanging on the left wall of the room. Those are some good cultural relics and oil paintings that I have collected, as well as some old photos. They are all old objects, Garen explained with a smile. He was wearing a white loose robe, like a pajamas and bathrobe, looking leisurely and easy. You called us all here, what's the matter? Haseman retracted his gaze and asked in a low voice. The maid brought 3 cups of fragrant coffee, then quickly exited the room and closed the door. It's really a small matter, Garen crossed his arms and said with a smile. He held up 2 fingers, 2 things in total. First thing, I need you to do me a small favor. He opened the desk drawer and pulled out a slightly black metal mask. The mask is a bit weird, with an expressionless face and a slightly black texture. The forehead is densely covered with small eyes, as if it is covered with countless small black insects. It looks like a trypophobia. Garen placed the mask on the table in the middle. Find the original version of this mask as much as possible. Of course, if you find a replica, try to bring it to me as well. Horseman picked up the mask, scanned it and put it back on the table. No problem, if I find anything through my channels, I will get it for you. Dam picked up the mask with orchid fingers and glanced at it. That's okay with me. Of course, if it's really rare and can't be found, there's nothing I can do about it. I hope you can understand. In any case, when the 2 of them reached their current height, they actually already somewhat understood Garen's method of controlling them. One of the most secret drawbacks of the biphasic water bird fist requires Garen's vigor and soul seed aura to constantly offset it, so what they disguised as subject to galleons. Although both of them are very dissatisfied with this and are constantly looking for ways to solve this hidden danger, at least there is no way now. That's good, Garen nodded. This mask is the one that provides him with the most potential value among all cultural relics. Just such a mask actually provides her with nearly 1/3 of her potential value. This is the key to which he attaches great importance. After a period of reviewing records and identification, he discovered a fact that shocked him even more. That is, the mask itself is actually just an imitation, just an older imitation. The records of the man in black also contain the original record of this mask. This mask is named the Black Copper Mask. There should be 12 imitations in total. Legend has it that each imitation mask hides a clue about the location of the original. As long as you get all the black copper masks, you can find the real one. The legendary authentic black copper mask. This is a secret that the man in black discovered through his own exploration, and only Lieber and a few senior officials know about it. But now Garen unexpectedly discovered that it contained huge potential points, which made him immediately interested in this mask. The second thing, he looked at the 2 people sitting in front of him. Quinton and Sidon came to my place, not to adjust the annual secret martial arts competition within the society, but to discuss issues about you 2. The room fell silent, and neither of them spoke. I don't want to interfere with your affairs. You have your circle, your life, and your decision. Outsiders have no right to interfere. It's just that Quinton and the others have requests from other club members, which also makes me very embarrassed, Galen continued. I understand, Dam laughed, as long as Hoseman agrees to reconcile, I naturally have no objection. I will consider it. Haseman closed his eyes and replied calmly. We are a whole, a family. Boxing connects us. The paths we take may be different, but don't forget the friendship we had, Garen said in a low voice. Although both of them sneered in their hearts, they still looked attentive on the surface. That's right, Garen nodded with satisfaction. I heard that, teacher, you recently need a completely quiet environment to practice boxing. Hoseman and I bought an ancient-style palace building in Donjianap Mountain, and we decided to give it to teacher. To express our gratitude for your teachings, Love, Dam said with a sincere expression. I don't know what their motives are, but both of them seemed to be trying to spread the myth in public opinion. They did not defend themselves against the rumors about the mysterious and powerful fighting club circulating in the society, and even tried to add fuel to the flames. But no matter what, as their realm further improved, the strength of Garen that they thought they could see clearly became blurry again. They could feel the aura on Garen's body that had the same origin as theirs. That aura was powerful and magnificent, as vast and boundless as the sea. Moreover, Garen's temperament is weird and changeable, sometimes cruel and cold, sometimes gentle and peaceful. So even though they had long been hostile in their hearts, they still respected him on the surface. Palace, Garen felt a little weird. He is actually still a student now. Although he often skips classes, he is still only in his 20s after all. However, seeing the look in the eyes of the two disciples, combined with the recent intelligence and news, he somewhat understood their plans. They plan to establish a mainstream boxing style, continuously expand their power with powerful and magical boxing styles, and truly become the mainstream style in the fighting world, so that they can become a big, righteous, and dominant position. It may even mean integrating the entire fighting world. After all, the Water Bird Fist and their own martial arts have surpassed human limits, and such strength is undoubtedly admired and pursued by countless people. They have the ambition to establish a sect. Garen suddenly understood the two men's intentions. Both Horseman and Dam are constantly trying to create their own style of water bird boxing. That's fine. Since it's a gift from you, I'll accept it. It can be used as the high-level meeting place of our fighting club in the future. He nodded and accepted the gift. It just so happened that he needed an extremely quiet environment to train his dream skills. He had recently learned that attacks by void creatures were likely to affect surrounding creatures. In order to prevent attacks by void creatures from harming innocent people, it would be a good idea for him to choose a more remote place. Then I'll take my leave first. Hasamon stood up and bowed slightly. Me too, I still have things to deal with. Dam stood up and said lazily. In fact, when the two of them faced Garen, they looked at his flawless and inhuman face. For some reason, they both felt an inexplicable sense of depression in their hearts. This sense of depression made them more and more uncomfortable. So the two of them never stayed here for long. Go and remember your promise, Garen whispered. They both nodded and exited the room. Listening to the footsteps gradually disappearing and looking at the mask on the table, Garen's heart suddenly moved. He stretched out his hand to pick it up and put it gently on his face. I don't know why, but it was weird. The moment he put on the mask, he seemed to feel some strange change in his breath. Void creatures keep appearing in dreams, which are bizarre and complex, and are completely different from the real world. For a moment, Garen wondered if there was something wrong with his senses. It was extremely difficult to encounter supernatural phenomena in the real world. He took off the mask again and looked at it carefully, but didn't find anything strange. This mask, he vaguely felt that there seemed to be some mysterious secret hidden in this mask. It seems to be some kind of special force field. Hesaz spoke up. This mask contains a strange force field that seems to be able to change the brain waves that affect living things. Changing brain waves, Garen suddenly became interested. Hesaz seemed to be learning and growing rapidly, absorbing all kinds of knowledge from the surrounding world. This world was very different from the world he was in before. The main body was technological civilization. He had so much to learn. Carefully stroking the texture of the mask, Garen took out the brass coin that fell from Nadia's body. The rules of this world are very strong, and the binding force between particles is very strong. To truly display extraordinary power, it requires extremely huge power. Even Nadia's terrifying strength in the dream will be quickly compressed when she lands in this world. Then she left this coin to influence reality from the dream, and the amount of power she expended was absolutely astonishing. Hesaz whispered. Similarly, if this mask can automatically and independently produce this extraordinary power phenomenon in such a world, then the secret hidden in it may not be small. Rubbing the coins and the mask, Garen gradually fell into thought. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 652. Bang. In a large and empty cathedral, a black figure was instantly smashed against the wall, like a butterfly stuck to a spider web. The figure opened its arms and was stuck by countless lit green silk strands on the wall behind it, unable to move. He opened his mouth and roared wildly, but no sound came out. This figure was completely black, as if his whole body was made up of black shadows. He had no face at all, and only a little bit of white light inside the mouth could be seen when he opened his mouth. What kind of dream is this? Garen stood in the middle of the church inexplicably. He seemed to feel that there were eyes on him from all directions. Looking around, he couldn't see anyone except himself, only the one who was stuck to the wall. The black figure is on it. This was the first time he had such a dream, and everything around him was completely new to him. He was 100% sure, because every pattern on the surrounding church walls gave him an unusual sense of strangeness. Hessas, he whispered, but there was no reaction in his mind. He raised his head and looked at the black human figure struggling on the opposite wall. The man opened his mouth wildly and roared, trying to break free from the network above. But that weird green death is getting tighter and tighter. Garen tried his best to keep his attention and not let himself be distracted by everything around him, otherwise the dream would turn into a mess again. He paid careful attention to everything around him. The church is blurry and chaotic, and the surrounding patterns can clearly be seen clearly, but if you look closely, they are all blurry. There are tall golden statues erected on both sides of the surroundings, each of them holding a long sword with both hands on the ground, more than 10 meters high. Garen raised his feet and walked slowly in the church. He walked under the stuck figure and reached out to touch the huge green silk screen. Unfortunately, there seemed to be a transparent layer between him and the silk screen. The glass-like compartment, all he touched was the hard and smooth surface of the compartment. Woo! A faint sound came to his ears in a daze, and Garen's vision became slightly blurred, and his eyes suddenly blurred for a moment. He opened his eyes and slowly stood up from the recliner. The dream just now was so real and novel that it was still fresh in his memory when he woke up. He was lying on the sofa in the small living room on the second floor, and the alarm on his cell phone was ringing rhythmically next to him. That was the alarm clock at the time he had set in advance. Pulling off his pajamas, Garen got off the sofa and stood up. The small living room was silent. The maids had all gone back to their rooms to rest. At night, the open floor-to-ceiling window curtains in the living room were blown up by the wind. From the outer balcony, the wind blew in one after another. Garen walked to the balcony and looked out. Some of the lights in the distance are fixed and some are moving. Only 1 or 2 shops on the opposite street are still open, and the rest are closed. From time to time, a few motorcycles will fly by, breaking the complete silence. He picked up his phone from the coffee table. There were text messages from Raphael, information from his parents, and even a message from Jason, urging him to go back and check it out sometime. There was also a message from a bald man. Ever since he lost one eye, this guy has always been resentful of Lieber's daughter and wanted revenge, but he didn't take any action under Galen's intimidation. But his character became more and more cruel. Click on the bald information. Clues about the mask were discovered. There was such a mask at a private exhibition in an ancient family collection in Europe. We are negotiating with the other party and hope to acquire it, but the other party is a bit resolute and does not intend to sell the mask, looking for another way. The time the text message was sent was 11 o'clock last night. Garen looked at the current time and saw it was 3:25 in the morning. It should be around 8 or 9 in the morning over there with the bald head. Galen sent a text message directly to the other party. You can reveal a little bit of his identity if he is willing to take action. He can gain our Nighthawk's friendship to a certain extent. After waiting for a while, there was a reply quickly. Boss, I'm afraid it's difficult. Our Nighthawk has almost no market in Europe, and the main areas are occupied by mercenaries here. It would be easy to deal with in Africa, but now it seems that there is a breakthrough. Let them go with whatever conditions they need as long as it's not excessive. You can agree to it, but remember the bottom line, Galen replied. Clear. Garin put down his cell phone. At this time, he could vaguely feel the unusualness of the black copper mask. After wearing this mask on his face, he could still intermittently emit a subtle flow of potential energy into his body. Garin clearly remembered that he had absorbed all the potential points before, but now a new potential aura appeared. This immediately increased his curiosity about the mask. I promised you, Bastina. I will not interfere in your private life until you are 20 years old. In a gorgeous study room, a white-haired old man was saying to a young girl in a low and serious tone. You are 19 years old this year. You will soon turn 20 and hold a 20th birthday party. I, your mother, and your grandma all hope that you can share the business of being the pillar of the family. The old man paused. After a pause, if you like collecting, we'll let you do that. If you like fighting, we support it. You also like making movies. It doesn't matter. However, you must clearly understand that your future is different from that of your companions. Ours, the career that the elders have worked hard for, needs you to grasp and maintain it, so as not to let our hard work go to waste. This is your responsibility as a member of the family. It is also the price you should pay to enjoy all this. The young girl was wearing a white t-shirt and ripped jeans. She looked just like an ordinary delinquent girl. The girl was tall and thick, and her face looked a bit like a man's. There was no trace of beauty. She was the kind of girl that makes people rack their brains and can't figure it out. Figure out the type of compliment. The skin on the body has large pores and is neither white nor black, but has a dirty yellow color. She has short hair that is as dry as withered weeds, small eyes, a big nose and a big mouth. As a young girl, she has indeed inherited all the shortcomings of her parents, but she has not inherited any of their advantages. At this time, she listened to her grandfather's scolding with all her ears, but her heart felt peaceful. Aren't you still 20 years old? I know what to do after my birthday, Bastina replied calmly. What we're afraid of is that you don't understand, Grandpa retorted. You have to clearly distinguish what is serious. In this world, only power is the most powerful thing and the sharpest weapon. The second is money. Until now, you are still chasing meaningless things. That's not meaningless, Bastina retorted. Any field that reaches the top is dazzling and powerful. So what? Our relationship can bring you world-class movie stars, world-class fighting coaches, and the best antiques. The top people in these fields only make tens of millions of dollars a year. With an income of hundreds of millions at most, public opinion is controlled by those of us behind the scenes. They fade out, cool down, and are squeezed out of the industry. It is too easy to block them, the old man answered nonchalantly. The people will not be fooled so easily, Bastina frowned. You are wrong, the old man shook his head. People are most likely to be deceived because they cannot see the facts at the first time. This era is the age of science and technology. Anything that is true can become false, and anything that is false can become real. Forget it, I don't want to argue with you. I understand what you mean. I will be ready. Bastina stood up, patted her pants, turned around, opened the door and walked out of the study. After coming out of Grandpa's place and driving slowly along the tree-lined path, Bastina felt a deep sense of unwillingness in her heart. Facing the huge family, she seemed so weak and fragile. The social circle she worked so hard to build was nothing but a joke in the eyes of her family. They could easily destroy all her relationships and completely isolate her. But she does not give in. She loves collecting and fighting, and spends a lot of money and energy on these two things every year. Taking out her cell phone, she dialed a friend's number. "Hey Giamua, how's the latest show going?" "What? You have something to do at home, so you probably won't be able to attend the exhibition? Okay, how about we meet up in the afternoon and go shopping? Just think of it as a way to relax. Is there something urgent?" "Alright." After hanging up the phone, Bastina dialed another number again. "Chris, what are you doing? What, are you moving? I'll come over and see you off soon." "No." Alright. Another friend has become inexplicably cold. Bastina has already felt that the big web woven by her family is gradually beginning to close, and she is unable to resist. Gritting her teeth, she dialed a number again, but this time the other party didn't answer at all, and no one answered. Number after number is constantly being changed. Calls from friends, fellow enthusiasts, members of a society, and collection associations were either not answered or brought bad news. Even most of the members of the collection association she organized had withdrawn from membership, and the entire association was on the verge of collapse. Boom. Shit. Bastina punched the steering wheel hard, and the car suddenly stopped, followed by a sound of brakes. Her circle is so fragile, and no one can resist the pressure from her family. It is pressure from all areas of society, which is heavy and suffocating. Continuously, she tried phone numbers one after another, but all the calls were either despairing silence or polite rejections. Gradually, she expanded the scope to anyone she knew and exchanged phone numbers with. She dialed the numbers one by one, but the result was still helpless and despairing. She thought that the huge and complex network of relationships seemed extensive, but it was still under the control of the family's power, without exception. With increasing despair. Finally, with her last hope, she made a phone call. That was the number of a stranger I met when I went to the United States to participate in a fighting exchange competition. She is trying to find places where the family power cannot reach. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 653. The other party was just a fighting enthusiast who was trying to buy an antique from her. They talked to each other at her private exhibition. The two chatted for a while and found that it was quite speculative, so they exchanged phone numbers. The relationship between the two could only be regarded as an acquaintance. "Hello? Which one?" A deep male voice came from the phone. "Mr. Carton, still remember me? I'm Bastina." "Bastina? Oh, it's Miss Bastina. How about it? Have you decided to get rid of that mask? The price is negotiable." The other party's tone suddenly became enthusiastic. Bastina was refreshed and finally met someone who didn't shirk. A series of no answers and direct rejections made her feel more and more irritable. She calmed down a little for a while, as if she saw a loophole in the family's network. Even the people she had negotiated to exchange antiques with her had rejected them one after another. Even those who wanted the antiques in her hands were rejected. They all changed their words one after another, either because they were under some pressure, or they got other bigger benefits as a reward for closing the network. "Now I finally have someone who is somewhat normal." "Are you still willing to acquire the mask?" Bastina asked carefully. "That's for sure," Cotton replied matter-of-factly. "Would you like us to meet? You can decide the place. I flew as fast as I could." "Good. Just on Stonegate Street in New York. There is a nice restaurant there. When you arrive, call me and I'll tell you the exact location." Bastina seemed to see hope at once, and her mood quickly improved. "No problem." A few hours later. Galileo Restaurant, Stonegate Street, New York. The two people were so impatient that they both sped up at the same time. As a result, both of them arrived more than an hour ahead of schedule. Sitting at the back of the restaurant against the wall, the bald Cotton and Bastina stared at each other, not knowing what to say for a moment. The two of them were sitting opposite each other on the right side of the restaurant. There were faint sounds of other guests talking and chatting around them, as well as the sounds of waiters clearing tables and saying hello. The restaurant has a nice environment, with a soft light yellow color throughout, giving it a gentle and warm taste. It seems that we are all here early, Bastina said aloud. She put her hands on the table and noticed that the other party seemed to be hesitant to speak. Let me confirm again, are you really willing to trade with me? The bald head nodded. Of course, what's the problem? He showed a puzzled expression. Okay, then let's talk about the details of the transaction. Bastina didn't know why, but she suddenly felt relaxed, as if a bug was stuck on the internet, and finally broke free and could breathe. The two began to carefully discuss the value and market price of the black copper mask. Perhaps in order to thank for this slight relief in her heart, Bastina took the initiative to lower the price by 1/3, which made the bald head a little confused. After some questioning, Bastina finally told her situation. I want freedom. I want to do a career that I like. But even such a simple idea cannot be realized. She lowered her head seriously with a hint of pain. Now that I've reached an advanced level in professional wrestling, I don't want to just give up. After learning about Bastina's situation, Baldhead seemed to recall the situation of another friend of his, with a hint of understanding in his eyes. I deeply sympathize with your situation, he thought for a while. If you simply want a space that is not affected by your family's control, if possible, maybe I can introduce you to a fighting teacher. I can make sure it won't be affected by your family. Bastina felt that the other party's tone was a bit mysterious. What teacher? Are you sure you understand the huge family behind me? For a moment, she felt that Bald Katon's identity seemed to have become a bit mysterious. You will like it, the bald head smiled and said, but the teacher I introduced may be very strict. Unless you really like fighting and are willing to work hard and train hard, it is better not to agree. No problem. So what conditions do you have in exchange? Bastina asked in a low voice. There are no conditions. That person is also my teacher. He appreciates anyone who is enterprising and dedicated to martial arts, so he is willing to teach his skills, but he also needs to be selected. If you are not qualified, you will not be able to. The method has been taught. The bald head was naturally talking about Garen. Not only him, but also Jay, his wife Hera, and several other Nighthawk executives were constantly looking for good seedlings for Garen. Seeds must not only have aspiration in martial arts, but also have a background with sufficient utilization value and cultivation value. If you are poor in literature and rich in martial arts, it is difficult to practice something real without money and resources. Garen asked everyone to collect such seedlings and teach various secret martial arts as the fundamental means to control the development of forces. Using the channels in the hands of these disciples, we can quickly search for black copper masks throughout the world. Bastina is just one of many people chosen. The two of them discussed the time in the restaurant, then left the restaurant with their bald heads and got into the car driven by the driver. Then they took out their mobile phones from their clothes and looked at the text message above. It was from the Bastina family. The message contained a vague threat. How dare you threaten me? You really thought we were honest and legal businessmen, he sneered. How about teaching them a lesson? The driver chuckled. Just a little warning. After all, it's not our territory, Baldhead replied casually. Whoever spoke, just use one of your hands, don't let it go. Clear. They are lawless masters to begin with. As the boss of the African mercenaries, they have a terrifying reputation backed by the king of Nighthawks. Most violent groups are afraid of them. They do not mess with other people's territory. Even if it's fine, there are still people who dare to provoke them. Each of these mercenaries are desperados with their heads stuck in their belts. They are skilled in killing people. In their spare time, some of them will be guest killers to collect bounties. Now some people are taking the initiative to mess with them. All these have been filed with the governments of various countries. The vigilantes who paid close attention to them naturally became more energetic. It just so happens that the government is busy dealing with the Blood Clan civil war all day long, and all kinds of murder cases can't be suppressed. It's a good opportunity to start casually. Randomly flipping through the photo information on the table, Garin browsed through the 10 young people chosen by his men. Among them were men and women, all in their teens to 20s. Regardless of their appearance, their backgrounds are all powerful masters in various places, and they are all interested in fighting and fighting, so they are just suitable for the offline targets he will control next. Under the light, Garin picked out a few pictures from these photo files and put them aside. These were dispensable, and the rest could be taught by Sidon alone, and then he could eliminate the sequelae himself. For these young people who love fighting, they pursue excitement, adventure, and novelty. Facing a secret weapon that can completely make oneself powerful to a terrifying level in just a few months, I believe no one can resist such a temptation. Garin did not intend to spend more time on these people. Sidon taught Waterbird Fist. He only needed to inject the soul breath introduction into them when adjusting the secret martial arts. Only with an introduction can these people really embark on the path of biphasic waterbird boxing and achieve rapid and powerful results. That kind of pleasure that is even better than taking drugs during practice will definitely capture the hearts of these young people. Your plan is good and will help expand your power, but what is the use of such power? The time period is also a bit longer. Nadia may appear at any time. The breath of that coin is the coordinate, and the will of the 9-headed dragon's blood in you is also the signpost that guides her. She will be back soon. I'll see what you do then. Hessas poured cold water on the side. He didn't know that Garin could use the potential energy in the mask to strengthen himself. Garin was too lazy to pay attention to him. The more this guy paid attention to him, the more excited he became. He divided the photo into 2 parts and asked Nighthawk's people guarding the door to come in. He took out the 2 photo documents and sent them to the designated people. Then he stood up, left the room, and came to a closed room with lead coating on the empty walls. This room was specially made by him. The walls on the ground were coated with silver lead. There was a small white square platform in the center of the room, and the brass-colored dragon head coin was placed on it as if it were an offering. Slamming the door, Garin walked towards the platform where the coins were. Peng! In a daze, Garin felt dizzy and his vision seemed to blur for a moment. He suddenly stopped 3 meters away from the platform. I don't know when a thin layer of white mist evaporated on the platform, like water vapor. This white mist swirled around the coin and gradually condensed into a ferocious dragon head shape. Roar! The dragon head roared towards Garin. There was obviously no sound wave vibration, but Garin could hear the deafening dragon roar. This is the coordinate that the coin is emitting all the time, and you can try to suppress it, Hessas suggested. This can effectively curb Nadia's arrival. Garin nodded. He knew that he had been dragged into a dream by the breath of the coin. The movement of the coin had become louder and louder recently, and the power it revealed was getting stronger and stronger. The breath of Nadia kept coming from the coins leak out and affect all surrounding environmental creatures. After a maid was hypnotized into a dream by a coin and almost starved to death, Galen had someone build such an isolation room to isolate the increasingly powerful fluctuations of the coin. A mere dead thing. Garin narrowed his eyes and took a step forward. Boom! A large puff of dark blue cold air suddenly erupted behind him, and countless cold air quickly solidified and condensed, turning into the image of a ferocious 9-headed dragon. Roar! The 9-headed dragon roared fiercely at the white dragon head. For a moment, the entire room was completely filled with blue and white mist. You can't stop me, Nadia's voice came faintly from the white dragon's roar, full of killing intent. Garin ignored it and sat cross-legged on the ground, his eyes slightly closed, and the dark blue mist behind him began to surround the white mist emitted by the coins.